to Oma Irmgard's Saxon kitchen. No cake today. So, we can't always live on sweet stuff, you know, it's just not good enough. So, today, actually it's a 2-day thing. Today I'm making something that's called Sauerbraten. Sauer, same kind of word in English, means literally sour. And Braten is the German word for roast. Although it's more like a sort of slow cooked, boiling kind of style of roast, not in the oven and crusty kind of thing. So in other parts of Germany you actually do, you know, the roasting in the oven, but we in Saxony do a lot of things more in boiling in the pot. And in those cases the meat gets marinated or gets seasoned with a lot of things. So in this case, Sauerbraten, in some parts of Germany they marinate the meat, beef in this case, literally in vinegar. In Saxony we marinate it in buttermilk, just, you know, buttermilk. I talked about buttermilk before on the cake section when I'm talking about quark, how to make quark. Although here in New Zealand the buttermilk is a bit more sort of, you know, more milky than just watery kind of thing. And obviously you need your beef, and you want something that you would probably use here as for a silver side or something like that. Quite a, you know, a sort of tough meat that can withstand and gets better with longer cooking or boiling. So yeah, so this is actually what I've got here as a bowler roast, but you can, you know, whatever your butcher can give you. And you want it as a whole kind of piece. And then the other ingredients are a couple of spices, and we do put some vinegar in it, but it's not just the only thing. So without further ado, we put this all together so you can see what I'm doing, and that's just today. So it needs to marinate overnight in the fridge for at least 24 hours before it gets actually cooked. So today is the first day, and unlike, you know, the cooking programs on TV, I haven't prepared one earlier, so this is the earlier process. So let's jump into it. Right, so I've got a dish that I can use a lid with. The lid is in the kitchen. And then I've got my meat. Right, you can see that. So it's you know, it's a fairly big piece. It's still got some fat on it. I've washed it, I dried it, and over here that's already a cut onion. So the first thing you need to do is season your meat. And you put some, you know, salt and pepper. Nothing special there. And do that on all sides if you can. There you go. So that's the first step. So you put that into your dish. Right. Take this board out of the way so you can get a better shot. And then you can sprinkle already your onions around it. So I just cut them into, you know, just half rings. That's just a white, sort of medium-sized onion. And then we get into the spices. So I've got here whole allspice. Now that is sometimes hard to get in New Zealand, I've noticed. You can get the ground allspice, but the whole one is sometimes a bit hard to find. You can find it in delicatessen. And in some supermarkets they have it as well, so it looks a little bit like peppercorns, but it is actually allspice. So a couple of those, about 10 I'd say, right? And then something that you more associate with certain drinks, juniper berries. Same sort of thing. You can get them here, and they, I think they grow in some hedges as well. But you know, you may have to look around. It's not a must, but I like the flavour. So about 10 a dozen as well. sort of sprinkle them around. And then about 5 cloves, whole ones again. If you can't find whole, by all means use ground. About half a teaspoon. But I prefer them whole simply because you can fish them out after. 2, 3, 5. And then we do have black pepper, whole again. Oh, you know, there you go. Sprinkle them. And then last but not least, some bay leaves. If you have fresh, that'd be even better, but then if you have fresh bay leaves, squish them. So release the oils. I put about three of those in. Pop them around. And then the next thing what you do is, here, I'll make some space so you can see. So you just fill it up. See, it looks a little bit like yogurt. So in Germany, the buttermilk is actually really, really runny and is more like you know, sort of more watery kind of thing, or more milky. It doesn't help having a cat running in front of the camera. So don't overfill your dish, but you want the meat to be covered. There you go. And then last but not least, this is a bit of a feel thing. This is white vinegar. This is white vinegar, and I just it's probably half a cup that I put on here, and I just sort of put that over, you know, depending on the size of your meat. And that's it for today, really. So now I put the lid on it, put it in the fridge for around 24 hours before I cook it. And so what this essentially this marinade does is it not only flavors the meat, but it also kind of tenderizes it because of the vinegar and the buttermilk. And I use the buttermilk later on, I'll show you that tomorrow, for to making the gravy, so to give an extra bit of flavor in the gravy as well. So that's where the Saxon Sauerbraten differs from Sauerbraten in other parts of Germany, where they sort of flavor it with other ingredients like raisins and things like that. We don't do that in Saxony. So that's the difference between our Sauerbraten and other Sauerbraten. The other thing is what we usually do with this dish, or any really beef dish in Saxony. I mean, you know, some family do it differently. My family, so beef goes with red cabbage and pork goes with sauerkraut. So in order to make this a proper dish, an actual lunch or dinner dish, I'm gonna also show you how to make a red cabbage in a separate video, or sweet and sour red cabbage cooked. And also on top of it, hopefully, normally we put some just boiled potatoes, but we can also make dumplings with it. So I may or I may not make another video for those, but that's what you normally eat with this. So this goes in the fridge, and I'll see you tomorrow. Rightio, welcome back. So this has been marinating overnight in the fridge for about 24 hours, you know, a little less or a little more, one hurt. And I don't know if you can see this, but sort of it, you know, it changed a little bit in the color, this. And all we now need to do, I've put some vegetable oil in the pot and sort of start preheating it. And when it's hot enough, we just transfer the meat, not the liquid and herbs, into here, and brown it off on all sides. And you know, you can just take it out of here, you know, use your hands. It's probably the quickest thing. and the easiest. Or you can use tongs, you know, it's up to you really. Or you can, if you feel like it, you can just use some kitchen paper and pat dry it. So I just use my hands, so just move it out of the way, grab it, really, there you go, get all the excess or most of it off, and then just plonk it in here. There you go. And so it splatters a little bit. That's the liquid, obviously, you know, because it's quite wet. So you've got to be careful, no young kids around, just in case anything splatters outside of it. I turned my oven down a bit. My oven is a bit touchy-feely. It only goes on really high or really low. So when it sort of stops splattering, take the lid off. Go. And you can, well, you can't, I can smell the vinegar and the other liquid and the other spices in this, and then you just turn around and turn it back up. So it needs to be browned on all sides, ideally on all sides, so you've got to turn it a couple of times, and then you put it on the flat side and just fill it up with water, boiling water ideally, until it's covered. And then you boil it for about, on low, or simmer rather, not boiling, simmer, for about an hour and a half, even 2 hours. So quite a long time. So the browning gives the flavour, extra flavour rather, and then the boiling makes it really nice and tender. There you go, nicely browned on all sides. Yep. What we want. Next thing is you just fill it up with boiling water. I've got my jug. Just be careful because there's oil in here. And obviously it'll bubble up right away. Probably boil a little bit more and put some more in to cover it. But that's basically it. So this will be sort of simmering on a low heat now for an hour and a half, 2 hours. We keep the marinade and we use some of the marinade later to kind of give the gravy a little bit more flavor and also to thicken it a little bit. So don't throw it away, keep it, and I'll see you then. Rightio, so here we are. So I've cut up the meat, always against the grain kind of thing. This is the marinade that we kept. In my pot is just the liquid, which we're making a gravy out, and in this bowl is about 2 heaped tablespoons of just general flour. And what I'm doing now, instead of, some people thicken the sauce with just the flour, what I'm doing is I use some of this marinating liquid, you know, some of the buttermilk. I try not to get any of the you know, the spices and the onion in here, just some of the liquid, or rather the, you know, and it will curdle a little when you put it in. You know, it probably doesn't look as attractive, and you can, you know, put it through a sieve if you prefer, but since this is home cooking, you know, so So really what I do is I thicken this even more. And so if you mix this beforehand, you know, so this is getting hot, right? So if you were to put the flour in, like so, into the pot, it will definitely clump up. So if you mix it in either just with water or something else beforehand and then stir it in, it makes for a much smoother transition. And sometimes you need a third hand. But we'll hope we can do this like that. And it will change the colour of the gravy and obviously the consistency as well. There you go, so you can see it. And some of this flavouring, you know, the vinegar and the buttermilk will come through in this gravy and gives it a nice sort of kind of a subtle sourness. There you go. Let's get all these nice binding agents out of here. There we go. And you bring it back to the boil, and then it will thicken, and then you put your meat back in and let it warm up through again. In the back pot I've got some potatoes boiling, so usually you just use potatoes, and in the big pot that you can't see, it's out of shot, I've got some red cabbage. In my family, a Sauerbraten always gets served with red cabbage, so there will be a different video for that one, just so you know, you're aware of it. But essentially, that's what it is. So you have a slightly different flavoured meat. You know, it's not really a roast. It's more like a, you know, like a boiling, like a corned beef kind of thing. You know, so I personally like it. My husband does, and he's a Kiwi, so ideally you want to keep this stirring until it comes back up to the boil, and that's your gravy done. And as with all other things that I make, I usually, because it's only the two of us, you know, unless we have guests, so I make a big batch, you know, 2-3 meals worth, and freeze some of it, and that way when we need something quick and easy, we can just take it out of the freezer and either put some more potatoes on or freeze those as well if need be once they're cooked. So this is what my grandmother always used to do, and that's what this site is all about. So hopefully you give this a try and let me know how you get on. Happy cooking.